This is Dr. Z, Zachary Brooks, and I'm here with my friend Goodyear, and this is my podcast about bilingual decision making. Today I'm going to talk about a subject I chose for my dissertation. A dissertation is like doing homework for 2 years. It sounds like a bad decision. In some cases it is, because it certainly drives you crazy when you're doing this homework for 2 years. But in the end, I ended up with something I find super fascinating called bilingual decision making. So I'm recording this podcast from your favorite local library. It's an awesome place. Check it out sometime. So today I'm going to start geeking out about bilingual decision making and invite you to come with me and share your own thoughts about a topic I find fascinating, but even better, a topic that everyone can and does have an opinion on. The reason why is because almost all of us interact with people who come from different language and cultural backgrounds. And since we live in an interconnected world, we might as well do it very well. So once again, this is Dr. Z. Zachary Brooks with my friend Goodyear, talking about bilingual decision making. Well, hello. This is Dr. Z. Zachary Brooks here in my favorite public library with my good friend Goodyear once again. We're now in episode 5 of bilingual decision making. The topic today is biases, and we'll get to that actually in a second. So in the last episode, episode 4, we talked about the Turkish students who study abroad and how 80% of them thought the experience would help their career prospects, and 85% of them thought it would help with their decision making. So overall, the experience improved the students' interaction skills and it made them appreciate diversity more. So there's nothing like needing food from a stranger's hand to make you feel better about diversity and certainly appreciate it. But the students, sort of surprisingly, also returned home with a stronger appreciation for their first culture. Think about it like going away for a weekend camping trip. Few things will make you appreciate your bed more and your mom's cooking that you thought was boring more than sleeping on a hard ground in the cold and waking up to cold food. If you travel somewhere and come back, do you come back the same person? Well, maybe if your trip is short and nearby, you wouldn't expect any changes. But what if you travel far away for a long time to a place where they use a different language and whose culture is very different from your own? How would that experience influence your thinking? For example, would it allow you to see the world in a fresh new way? Would your experience abroad decrease the biases you have that can lead you to poor decisions? And we're back. Topic 2 of episode 5. We're talking about biases today. So in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of discussion about implicit bias in the media and implicit biases in general. And the idea is that they're unconscious thoughts that can affect your decision making. So a simple one and a very silly one in a way is an implicit bias is like preferring chocolate ice cream or having an aversion to strawberry ice cream. You just like chocolate ice cream. You're not really sure why. And you're not really sure why you don't like strawberry ice cream, but you just don't. And that's sort of what an implicit bias is like. You just have a bias about something and you're not really sure why. But biases are a huge topic. So by one count, there are 173 biases. That's right. We walk around daily with so many opportunities to get things wrong. It's a miracle we get anything right. No, I ordered almond milk with that, not rice milk. It's an example I come across sometimes when I go to coffee shops. Anyway, another way to think about biases is to categorize them like Stanovich has into 3 different levels. So one level is the default to the autonomous mind. The other one is a focal bias. And another one is an override failure. So let's talk about all 3 of those briefly. So the default to the autonomous mind is the idea is that we accept our quick responses as true. The idea is that we accept our quick responses as true. So remember when we talked about System 1 and System 2 thinking in Episode 3? In our first language, we may be more likely to use our intuition because our first language is familiar to us. And so if we accept our quick responses as true, then sometimes we might overlook actually a correct answer that's right in front of us. But because it's not a quick response, we might make a mistake in our decision making. So that's one idea of implicit biases and biases. The second one is called focal bias. And it's something that maybe an officer would have to deal with after a traffic accident. So let's say there's two people in a traffic accident. One person characterizes the accident one way, and the other person says, no, the accident happened in a very different way. So the way we frame our decisions can lead to very different results. So today looks like a bad day is very different from how is today going to be, good or bad? And so you can think of a lot of your own examples too in life if you just frame questions. Why am I so stupid on tests is very different question for yourself versus why am I so good on tests? And just the simple question and asking it in a different way can help you frame the way you see the world very differently. The third way to look at this is an override failure. And that's when we are not able to stop our automatic responses. Think about saying the wrong thing. Even though you know you shouldn't say the word that is now coming out of your mouth and that you should have said a different word, at this point you can't stop it. But what if you are walking around making decisions in your second language? What is your default? Isn't your focus different anyway? And what does it mean to have an automatic response when you have a hard time pronouncing automatic? Well, hello. This is Dr. Z, Zachary Brooks. This is episode 5 of Bilingual Decision Making, and we're on topic 3. So we're talking about biases, and in this section, we're going to talk about a particular one that is really fascinating. If you need, go ahead and pause and go back a few times, because the first time for most people, you have to kind of take your time with these to kind of think through them and so forth. And if it takes you 10 times to get it, that's fine. The main idea is that we're trying to learn something new. So we're back for the final segment of the day, and we look at biases. And now let's look at how biases may appear when you speak your second language. So before we talk about the results, let's play a game. Listen to the following statement. Linda is 31 years old, single and very smart. She has a degree in philosophy. When she was a student, Linda was concerned about issues of discrimination and social justice, and she participated in anti-globalization protests. Now order the 3 statements I read from most probable to least probable. So we have 3 different statements, and I'll go ahead and do that for you. So the 3 statements from least probable to most probable would be Linda works in a bank. That doesn't seem very probable based on what we know about her. Linda is an activist in the feminist movement. That seems more likely. And Linda works in a bank and is an activist in the feminist movement. So if we have those 3 statements, we can go from least probable to most probable. Once again, the least probable seems to be, based on what we know, is that Linda works in a bank. Then the next one, this seems much more probable, is that Linda is an activist in the feminist movement. And then we have a third one. We're not certain sort of where to put it yet, but we can say Linda works in a bank and is active in the feminist movement. So if you need to pause and go back, that's fine. Anyway, how did you do? Would you order the sentences any differently in your first or your second language? Well, Costa, a guy we talked about before, and his friends, his researcher friends in Barcelona, Spain, found no differences in this little experiment. So first and second language speakers had to order these probabilities from most likely to least likely. In other words, the example you just heard is an example of the conjunction fallacy. So that is, when you hear multiple pieces of information, you automatically begin adding them up. But in the Linda scenario, the least probable event is the one with the most information. The least probable event is Linda works in a bank and is an activist in the feminine movement. That is the least likely of all of the statements. So the good news is that you are equally biased in multiple languages. Wait, is that good news? Let's try another one. Here we go. Imagine that you want to invest $5,000 and you must choose between one of two brokers, broker A and broker B. A successful investment would mean to increase your $5,000 investment by 15% or more within a year. Broker A has a 43% chance of success, while broker B has a 54% chance of success. Which broker would you choose? Now, let's say a month later you learn that you lost $750 from your initial investment. How would you feel? It would be normal to feel some regret, right? Now, do you think people would have a different level of regret when they use their second language? What do you think? Maybe you can connect with your emotions of regret stronger in your first language, so you're free to regret more in your first language. Or maybe the second language makes you feel more passionate, so you can express your feelings more in your second language, so maybe you want to regret more in your second language. So what Costa and his colleagues found is that you feel regret equally about bad investments in your first and your second language. So if you're a gambler and you're using one language or the other and you lose money, you're going to feel that regret of losing money, no matter the language you use, equally. Hello, once again, this is Dr. Z, Zachary Brooks. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. I hope, again, you really appreciate how speaking another language can help you see the world in a whole new way. And hopefully you can also start to appreciate that when you learn a new language, that it can influence your thought, but as we just saw, sometimes it means your decisions won't change. You still feel regret over bad decisions, no matter what. Subscribe or tune in next time or download next time, whatever you want, because next time we're going to look at something called the truth effect, which is really fascinating for people who speak multiple languages. In the meantime, happy deciding.